everything we are doing is with the financial advisor in mind. I've been in the crypto space. I've seen all the different companies. Nothing is built for advisors by advisors. This is for you, right? And again, can't get too much detail into it, but we have a kick-ass retail offering, right? That's all I can say.
It is Thursday afternoon, a day after a crazy day out in DC yesterday. Today's January 7th, and I've got my very close friend, my brother, Tyrone Ross here to kick off a new twist on All About Your Benjamins podcast. So I have to give a quick shout out to Ashby Daniels, my friend, who on our monthly call, we were talking about goals and pursuing different things, and he gave me an idea of a different tweak to the podcast. So I'm having Tyrone here today as the CEO of OnRamp. He wears many hats. We all know him very well, but today we're going to learn a little bit about this company that he is leading, but more importantly, before we get to the company, more about why he's leading it. I don't think there's any introduction that needs to be known. I want to skip past all of the stuff you've already told a million times, Ty, about how you've got here, your background, not to diminish it, but it's out there. I'll link to December 26th podcast and all of the other ones, my previous one with you. But for those who don't know you, a real quick intro to who you are.
I am the son of superhero parents, Tyrone Ross Sr. and Carol Denise Ross. Born and raised in New Jersey, 3-time failed Olympian and superhero uncle as well. I'm a uncle to a great uncle to 3 awesome boys now. Shout out to Carson. And right now, again, the as you mentioned, CEO and co-founder of OnRamp Invest.
So I learned something new today. We talk to each other all the time, but your mother's middle name is Denise. My mom's first name is Denise. So look at that.
Look at that.
Another connection. All right, I was joking with you offline beforehand that you, like myself, when we get going, we're wordy. You have a famous saying, long story less long. Real quick, 5 or 6 words. What is OnRamp? And then we're gonna come back to this later on. But what is OnRamp in 5 or 6 words?
OnRamp is the Plaid of crypto. Simply allowing financial advisors to
5 or 6 words. 5 or 6 words. Cut you off. I'm gonna be a rude podcast host. I'm gonna cut you off. OnRamp is the Plaid of crypto. That was beautiful. We're gonna come back. I'm gonna let you finish that explanation because I do want to dive deeper. I wanted to give a real quick, that's what OnRamp is. We're going to learn more about it. But what I'm really interested in learning, I've been fortunate to watch you grow and watch your spaceship lift off over the last few years. And you have your hands in many things already, and you had a lot of things going on prior to moving from New Jersey to San Diego. What was it about OnRamp that said, all these other things I'm working on, I'm putting these aside for right now to go do OnRamp? What was it about OnRamp that made you move across the country?
So there's a couple of things. OnRamp didn't make me move across the country. I wanted to come to San Diego anyway. And then also want to clarify that is I wasn't able to put too many things aside, but did have to make room for this. There are 2 things in my life right now that are required filters for me to do anything: passion and purpose. 5 years ago, I said, I'm going to go all in on crypto. I was going to leave the traditional world and I was going to learn everything I can about crypto. And in 2017, left the wirehouse, went independent, and kind of was like, all right, I'm definitely hanging out the shingle as the crypto asset advisor. I remember getting laughed at that. The other thing is, so that's a little purpose-driven or passion-driven. The purpose part is growing up in an unbanked home and seeing how Bitcoin is the one infallible truth, inarguable thing that it has is that how it helps those that lack financial access. This is the first time I'm publicly saying that I'm going to stop saying unbanked. But for those that lack financial access, having grown up in that home and realizing that Bitcoin was a godsend to these people, I have a responsibility, one, as a Black man and someone that has grown up in an unbanked to bring unbanked home, right? At the time, unbanked. Again, I'm not using that term now in the present form. And importantly, to be a vision of what all folks coming from the environment that I come from and the background that I come from, the possibility. So me taking this role was more about what I wanted to project. Whether I succeed or fail is not important to me anymore, because, as you know, I live for my legacy, not my resume. I lived 16 years of my life being tied to a result that never happened. I'm not going to be tied to the result of OnRamp. What I'm going to do is every single day be an outward expression of what it means to sit in this seat, not be tied to a title, but be tied to using the gifts and talents that you have to leave a legacy. So it just so happened that my godson and my best friend are here. And when I came 4 years ago, I was like, man, I really love San Diego. So I'd wanted to come to San Diego for a while. It just so happened, again, when you follow your passion and your purpose, this came, and I was like, all right, now's the time to do it.
I said, it's almost like it was meant to be.
Yep, there you go. Destiny steps, my friend.
So you hit on a few words I want to dive further in. So destiny steps, we're going to come back to. Passion and purpose. I did a rebrand of RLS Wealth, and it's all centered around helping clients find and live their purpose. And I know what that means for me. It took a while to get there. I think sometimes people make fun of the talk about living out purpose and finding purpose and following passions, because it just seems like you can't really get where you want to be if you're just following these passions. There's a certain way that you reach success that America said it's to be done. Kind of when you talk about purpose and finding that purpose and living that purpose, what does that mean to you? And then how did you come to find that?
What purpose means to me is getting up every day and realizing that the 86,400 seconds that you have in that day aren't for you. You have to find a way to use that time to leave the world better than what you found it. I, unfortunately, don't encourage anybody to find purpose the way that I did. I had to go through hell and high water. I drove myself to depression and almost took my own life. So I had to find new purpose. I thought my purpose was to be an Olympian. God had other plans. So I had to find a new reason to live. And I want to make it very clear. This is very brand new to me. I didn't plan this life. I don't have the pedigree for the life that I live. I'm not supposed to be here for two reasons. One, when you come from where I come from, you don't end up here. And two, I'm on borrowed time. I'm not supposed to be talking to you right now. So it took me a long time, and literally, right, that it was in 2012 when I woke up one morning and decided I didn't want to live anymore. It was probably a year and a half ago when I finally was like, all right, God, I get it. This is what you want me to do. I surrender. I'm going to do that. So that's 7 years, right? That's 6 to 7 years. And it took me a while to find new purpose. And now I realize that I went through all of that to be able to make sure that child that went to bed hungry last night doesn't do that. I'm stupid enough to believe that in my lifetime, I'm going to turn on CNN and not see people scaling the wall of Capitol Hill, but I'm going to see last night is the first time in America no child went to bed hungry. And I'm going to cry and I'm going to scream because I know I had a little piece to do with that. So I wake up every day with that in mind. I don't want anybody to get it twisted by anything that you see me do. Don't ever get it messed up. My job is to fight for the dispossessed, the disenfranchised, the marginalized, hungry, abandoned, abused, neglected children. Crypto is just the smoke screen. My job is to get up every day and fight for them.
And you said you wouldn't recommend finding your purpose the way that you did. How do you think one goes about finding their purpose?
I say this all the time when I go speak in schools and colleges and things like that. You have to answer the call. And we don't like to answer that call in life because we're told we have to do all these other things. But when I look back at my life now and I'm able to do that, I had always been the person who wanted to fight for the person who didn't have and wanted to be out in front and speaking on behalf of causes and making sure the nerds in school didn't get beat up. And I had always been that, but I never really answered that call because I had this gift and talent that they say. So I should be doing that, not answering what was in my spirit, what was placed in my soul. So you may be a great dentist, but your spirit says, man, you can really draw. You're talented. You have these skills, but your purpose is to reach people through drawing. We don't answer that. So I think everyone has this thing that calls them that they don't necessarily answer because of what people might say or what people might do or what people might think. But when you start to follow your purpose, you start to realize, like, I do this better than anybody else ever did it because I'm me. And when I'm me, I'm better at me than being me than anybody else in the world, right? And you're truly you and authentic. And then you start to realize when you don't care what people think externally, internally comes a courage, a fearlessness to say, no, I am going to fight for this group, or I am going to go and I want to be a pilot, or I have this gift for uniting people. I'm going into politics, even though everyone in my family is an engineer, whatever that may be. And then what starts to happen is you realize that everything that the world tells you you should have done, when you follow your purpose, the reason why you were created, everything that the world told you that you should have had comes anyway. And it comes in abundance. People want to be around you. People want to, they want to pay you for things that you fought before to get 2 seconds of time for people to just say, hey, I'm really good at this. But when you operate in your purpose, a couple things happen. Those things come. People who aren't aligned with your purpose are removed. Nothing that is tied to your destiny will stay. Because the people that were there for the wrong reasons will go, oh, I thought he was doing this. Now I don't want to, right? And then those people will move. New people will come in. And then you start to fully operate in your purpose every day. And then the main way you will go to bed every day exhausted because you put every ounce of what you had into the world and you didn't waste a conversation, an email, a text, nothing. Every single day I'm on purpose. Everything I do is on purpose. But at the end of every day, I am exhausted, more so than when I was training 2-3 times a day. Like, I go to bed whooped now. But I know if I don't wake up and you text me and I don't ever answer, you'll be able to say, I know that dude left it all out there. Whatever he did yesterday, I'm going to see come to fruition. And it's more about leaving. And again, I think this is, and again, I am long-winded, but because this is so important, I need people to get this. What I realize is, and I just did a live on this, is when you're on purpose, you pull all of these things out of you. It's not about you. I'm doing this for generations behind me, my nephews, my kids eventually. Other people are going to go, oh man, learn to money. Oh, evolve. Oh, right, OnRamp. Oh, 401. Oh, look at, so these things are really, really important. So when you realize that and you start to realize nothing is out of place, you leave a wonderful mark on the world. And again, I don't encourage everybody to go through to be broken to do that. But I think there's a way to do that if you just simply answer the call that's in your heart.
I want you to be long-winded on this because I do think this concept of living purpose and aligning your purpose with your career and with your dollars, it's hard for people to grasp until they experience it. And then once you experience it, it's like, oh, this all makes sense. That alignment you talked about comes in. And then now it's like, I want to tell everybody about this. I want to encourage them to find their purpose because I know the impact it's had on my life. So I want you to be long-winded. I did have one thought as you were talking about kind of the examples you're giving. It made me think of the movie Soul. I know I made you watch it, but it made me think of the scene in the barbershop when Jamie Foxx is in the cat and Tina Fey is in Jamie Foxx's body. He said, but you were born to be a barber. And the barber said, no, I wasn't. I actually wanted to be a veterinarian. And then it goes down this whole thing about what he thought he was supposed to be, a veterinarian, was not what he was supposed to be, and that he lives a happy, fulfilled life as a barber because he gets to make people look good and have these conversations. And it's just so cool. Like, I love that movie because it speaks so much to what we're talking about here. And we're going to make the connection a little bit even more deeper to the purpose and passion with OnRamp to what we're talking about. But The other term you mentioned, which feeds into this, and you've kind of touched on it, but I don't remember when you started saying it to me, but a year or so ago, you just started talking about destiny steps. And I think destiny steps are your walk along your way to find purpose. Within that vein, is living your purpose, is finding that purpose, is that something that like we can go after and seek, or is it something that you think we kind of have to leave ourselves open to and maybe kind of read the signs that are coming to us and then start to follow it with those destiny steps until it becomes obvious to us?
It's funny. My mother has sayings, and people know if you follow me on Twitter. My mother has a lot of sayings, but one of the things my mother always says is keep living. Right? Just keep living, right? Oh, you haven't, because people say stuff, that's never, keep living. It'll happen to you, right? So I just think people need to keep living their life. They need to keep, again, just being open to life and being open to possibility. And again, that sounds very meditationist, Naval Ravikant-ish, but again, whether things are good or bad, there's always beauty in the struggle. And that's why I say there are some people that are just going to be broken, and then what comes out of them is that purpose. And there are some people that just it clicks right away. Like they know, all right, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm going all in here. But as far as destiny steps goes, and again, I hate to make this personal, but I have to, is when you start to look at things, you take destiny steps before you realize, as a father, as a husband, as a business owner, I think you can say, all right, if I would have went this way, I don't need hands, right? If I would have this way, right? So there's all these things here. And I always love to be in the present now. Is as I look in this camera right now, I see a face of somebody that was tied to my destiny. You were tied to my destiny. When I woke up that morning, I couldn't have felt more lonely. There was no Justin Castelli. I don't even think I said those two words together in the same iteration or whatever. Like you were non-existent to me. But at some point, right, there was, as I started to get closer and closer to that street, and I started to cry harder and harder, and I felt more and more useless, right? And I got held back from doing what I did. We were supposed to meet. We were supposed to do things together. You were supposed to help me heal, right? Because the truth is this, we can never bring up OnRamp for the rest of this conversation, but OnRamp exists because of me meeting you, right? Like there are people that have kept me alive long enough and forced me. Listen, Tyrone, find new purpose. Come on my podcast. Talk about this thing that you it sounds like you're doing different than everybody else. The first time I did it, right? Like, and then other people say, hey, Tyrone, can you come on my podcast to talk about that too? You were non-existent to me. You were tied to my destiny. You came into my life at a time where other people were being removed. So it's always a manifestation of the people that are in your life now. So destiny steps are simply allowing what's supposed to happen, and people are in your life for periods of time. You just happen to come into my life at a time where I was doing this, right? And there was that fork in the road. And I'll even go so far to say I've had very weak moments around you because I was struggling to find out where I was supposed to go. So destiny steps are just honoring your weaknesses, honoring your strengths, honoring your failures, honoring your scars, honoring all of those things to say every day, I'm just going to take one step closer to what I feel I should be doing. If you honor that, truly what's in your spirit, you'll find it. But no one can tell you when, where, how. And again, it could be someone that you meet on Twitter that just, hey, right? You would come on my podcast and who the hell is this dude, right? But it wasn't about crypto. It wasn't about the podcast. God said, this is somebody that's going to help you heal and find what I got for you later, right? And again, there's a really cool ending to this that we'll get to at some point. But, it will be announced shortly here, and I'll leave it up to you to say that. But that's what's really cool about following your destiny. So it had nothing to do with you reaching out that day and saying, coming on my podcast. That was orchestrated, right? So that was just the beginning of what was to come.
You mentioned Naval. I love the book that Eric Jorgensen put together, Naval's like podcasts and conversations. And I think that when somebody like Naval talks about what you're talking about with purpose and mindfulness and happiness and the way he describes it, because he's so wildly successful and he has so much money, for most of us, it just seems like that's just some famous person talking this talk because they have no worries, like they're financially met. But Like I've had success in my life, but I'm a normal person. But all of those things, this talk about purpose and following your passions and the happiness and wealth, like it's all very true. And I think one you mentioned kind of letting go and then just letting it kind of happen. You're following these destiny steps. Like once you get to that point where you can trust that it's real and it works, then you said these things that everything you said you wanted anyway, they start coming and start coming in abundance. Um,
Yep.
and my goal with this little twist on the podcast and some of the content I want to create going forward is to get more and more people to at least be open to trying and putting down some of their guards and just trusting that if they follow their passions, that the right paths will evolve. And sometimes it takes you down the wrong direction. You got to come back and pivot. We both have pivoted many times. There was one point, I think it was last summer, we were talking about how does Tyrone join Arlos Wealth and get out of a situation he was going to come join me. Like you go down, but it ended up steering us both in different directions and taking us where we were supposed to go. And I know being somebody who would have thought this was all craziness 5 years ago, it is true. And I just want more people to understand that. And I think when people find this and they align their values and their purpose with what it is that they're doing, my hope is that they come on and talk about it and more people see it with the people who are being successful. So
For sure.
I love the idea of destiny steps. And to me, I think something about destiny steps is those steps are taken when you're not fully in control. Like to me, that's
100%.
like walking is when you're in control. Following destiny steps is like somebody is lifting your foot for you and moving you in that direction. So I love that. So coming back to OnRamp, and we've touched on it a little bit, but how does this opportunity with OnRamp, what you're building, align with where your purpose is today?
So it's funny how things work out. Again, like I said, I fell in love with crypto going on 6 years now. And one of the things that I'm passionate about is access, right? And financial inclusion and the ability to get all people exposed to something that I feel is going to have a meaningful effect on the world. And as a financial advisor that built a small practice at the time, in regards to working with clients in crypto, I realized there was these disconnects between the traditional world and the crypto world. And I was like, okay, well, I knew they were there, but I tried to work. It was a workaround. And as I started to get more and more into the space and get the credibility of people in the space or whatever, I started to get all of these opportunities. Oh, Tyrone, feels like you look at crypto a different way and so on and so forth, but you're a financial advisor, which is right. So again, I kind of fell into being an advisor. I kind of fell into Bitcoin and all that because I was like, this is Chuck E. Cheese money at first, right? My friend was trying to get me. I wish I would have listened to him, right? When he originally told me about it, and then this opportunity where I was like, I want to start working with startups. And I tell the story often how Lindsay never takes his flowers, but he changed my life. I met with him in Labor Day weekend. He goes, listen, you care a lot about crypto and you like startups. He's like, just go learn more about that than any other financial advisor and watch what happens. Destiny. Now, a crypto startup I'm the CEO of, right? Those things come together and are aligned. But one of the things that I think is really cool here is this. One, I can't go into too much detail about what we're going to be launching later on in our roadmap that's truly aligned with this. But the main thing right now is what I know for yourself, myself, other financial advisors, not being able to simply work with clients and get them access to Bitcoin right now inside of their existing workflow. That infrastructure, that tech does not exist. So who else to figure that out than myself, who have dealt with it personally, having the startup experience, having the crypto experience, and also being a financial advisor. So all OnRamp is right now is simply that tech, the infrastructure, the data integration, and advisors' current workflow so they can interact with Apple the same way they do with Bitcoin for a client. And that's our initial focus. But again, bigger picture here, the legacy play of OnRamp is I want to show that, again, without the Wall Street pedigree, without the Silicon Valley, connections, being a black man, you can do this, right? If you have a certain skill set and the ability to lead and inspire and motivate, and oh, by the way, everything they care about, seeing a problem and having a solution for it. And back to that passion and purpose, when I got the call for this, shout out to my co-founder, Eric Irvin, again, destiny steps. I came to San Diego 2 years ago to visit my little brother. I'm actually in his office now, right? I went to visit Eric Irvin, and he's like, "Oh, we're doing this thing called OnRamp. Can we interview you for it just to see what issues you're going through as a financial advisor?" Eric was like, "We knew we wanted you to be the CEO of this at that time. Like we knew we had you pegged. No idea, wasn't thinking about that. And here it is. The opportunity comes, and he gives me that call. Now, mind you, I'm already working with another startup on another solution in Bitcoin, but he was like, this is for you, man, right? Like everything that you're doing to be able to lead, to inspire, to build a team, everything that you care about, we would love for you to take over this role." So that's what we're doing, man. Couldn't be more excited. The need is there. The demand is there. We're going to educate advisors, which you know I care about more than anything, educating people. We're going to give them research. We're going to give them materials to update and advise clients, tools to update their practice management tools. But the main thing is piped right into their existing workflow to allow them to drop down, click right into Bitcoin without having to use a fund or whatever. Qualified custody, again, if you want to use the fund, we'll have access to that as well. But simply wanted to make it very easy for advisors to advise clients on digital assets the same way they would now. Nothing should change.
So obviously, you already mentioned how busy you are. Go to bed every night, whooped. How do you manage to balance everything? How do you manage balancing doing what you need to do for OnRamp, doing the awareness efforts that you do for canceling poverty, feeding the kids? How do you find that balance? And well, how do you find that balance first?
I'm on purpose. There's no way, like that's the only way to put it. I'm on purpose. There's no wasted thing, so it's easily to fit everything in. That's the real answer. The answer that I think makes sense here when you're being interviewed is, one, I have a cheat code. I'm not married and I don't have kids, so I have nothing but time to live my purpose. So that's the second truth. I just have more time than everybody else to execute on these things that I still do. And I'm still in training. Like I'm training to break the world record for my age group in the 400 meters. So there's time for everything, but I go to bed, I'm in bed by 9:30. I'm up at 4:30. It's been like that for as long as I can remember. And everything has its place. There's a time for me to train. There's a time for me to, again, I have, my calendar that I look at. So I kind of prep things along the way. And everything has its place. It's funny, and this is funny, and I talk to you often about this. There's this big push to get Tyrone an assistant, right? Like you need an assistant. You can't keep doing all this stuff yourself. But what I started to realize is I'm as efficient as I am because I don't have one. I just need to be able now to make sure that everything is in my calendar, right? I vet everything because I don't ever want somebody to email me and say, "Tyrone, we need you to come talk to these kids in Chicago." And then my assistant goes, "That could wait." No. When that comes, I need that right now, right? So when anyone reaches, and it's so funny, I get emails, "Oh, this email is for Tyrone. I'd like to schedule some." I'm like, "You got him," right? So again, I don't advise that. And I know I'm able to do that again because there's only me and I'll have to give that up at some point. But I started to realize, again, going back to purpose, when you're on purpose and you can get everything in its place, it's very easy for you to manage your calendar and make sure people are dealing directly with me. And I think the last thing with that is my mother would never let me feel I'm that important. Like, you don't need none of that. Like, you still my son. Respond to people. You're never too busy to be human. Be human. Respond to people. Say thank you and all that stuff. So everything has its process. And I think one of the things that's cool here is this, and I'll kind of front run it. I don't know when this is coming out, but I look forward to posting this so people can see. I have my workout log, and I just happened to open my workout log the other day. The first log in my workout journal is from February 2001. I have every single workout I've ever done for the last 20 years. Every single one. My whole life is in this book. I can't wait for people to see it. So and people will tell you, like, I'm not the biggest data quant guy, and I hate to write, but I've been consistently writing in this thing for 20 years that I'm going to be able to live behind. My whole life is in there. So just that type of process and being detail oriented, I'm extremely disciplined. I watch what I eat. I do all these different things. So I don't ever have to work on those things. Luckily, I came into being a CEO with all of those things in place that CEOs have to outsource, right? I'm ridiculously disciplined. I work hard. I eat well. I train, all those different things. So I think it helps me to be able to balance all of this stuff. But again, to the point, being on purpose, and then nothing that you've been through in life is wasted. So everything that I had been through up until this point prepared me to deal with the tremendous weight of things that I carry now. And I don't think I would have been able to do what I'm doing now if I hadn't been broken previously.
Your initial answer was where I was going to come back to. And when I cut myself off, is I was going to ask, how much does things being aligned with your purpose and passion make it easier? I mean, if you think about it, if you're doing the things you're supposed to be doing, your purpose, one, it's probably something that you love and enjoy. So even the extra hours that you're putting in, the extra reps that you're doing, they don't seem like work. They're enjoyable. They're a part of what you want to do anyways. And I think that allows the people that you see who are constantly working and always seem like they're grinding. Part of the reason is it doesn't seem like a grind. It's enjoyable. Like someone like Gary Vee, the dude never stops, but that's because everything he's doing, he loves. It's what his purpose is. And I think when you find the struggle to do certain things or there's not enough time, it's because it's not that high of importance.
Yeah, I want to add something to that, and I just said this to my team about our build and everything else. Whenever I have a bunch of people who reach out all the time, Tyrone, we want to partner, we want to do this, we want to do that, and they're like, well, what are next steps? I always tell people, right? I have a filter, passion, purpose. You pass that, so we can go to the next step. Don't worry about it. Wait until the opportunity or thing comes where you go, oh, no. If this is the work, we need Tyrone. Like, he's the only person, right? Justin's the only one. It's not Josh Brown. It's not Tyrone. It's not Doug. No, we need Justin for this. Nobody else. Because now what happens is they're not trying to get you and have you change to be what. Nope. If Justin comes, this fits perfectly, right? It's like Tetris. Boom. Right? Next level. So it's the same thing here. I know I'm showing my age there. But, it's next level when I just tell people, listen, when you know it's me, come get me. Because if you start to change me or you want me to do something I'm not supposed to be doing, then it becomes exhausting to me, right? Like, because I'm trying to be something you want me to be. No. When you need me, come get me. And that only happens when you're on purpose.
I want to circle back to one of your passions, the thing that you mentioned. You're still training and set the world record at your age, which I have no doubt that you will. How important do you think it is for you to be taking care of yourself, having good health, whether that is physical health, your nutrition, your mental health? Like, how important is that for you to successfully lead OnRamp where it needs to go?
I'm going to be honest here. I take it for granted because it's something that I've been doing since 13 years old. So 28 years, I've never stopped, right? I've never worked out. I've always trained. Again, there's no fault on people who work out versus people who train. I'm just saying, like, I train. There's always a goal behind my training and what I'm doing and when I'm doing it, what time of year, how much I weigh, what I'm eating. Like, there's always been this rhythm in my life of that for years. So, and I think that's the beauty of the struggle, right? That I took from failing to be an Olympian. I have all the Olympian tools, right? So I do take that for granted, that health and wellness and sleeping and all those other things. Like, I spend a lot of money on a bed. Like, sleep is very important to me. I pay up for food and supplements and things like that. It's just an embedded cost. I don't even really think about it. And when I'm around other people, especially in this business, when I realize how much of a struggle it is for them to get in the workout and do all those other things, I will admit, I do take it for granted. But to that point, people say, oh, health is wealth, health is wealth. Well, you don't appreciate it until your health is taken from you, right? And then you realize how important it is to be healthy. And not only in terms of, again, your cardio ability and overall wellness, but spraining your ankle or your back giving out or whatever it is, like if you can't do certain things. So just your overall health. And I think the most important here is mental health for me, because from the neck down, I got it figured out. I've had to learn how to deal with this because I had been broken down to a level where I had never dealt with the issues in my life that, again, got me to this point, but gotten me to this point in the way that they had. And that PTSD, that trauma now of making sure I'm mentally healthy has been progress, right? And it's been a progress and it's been a lot of hard work. And I thank you for staying on me with that. So it's more of a mental wellness thing for me as opposed to physical wellness. But again, they're inextricably linked. So for me, it's more about making sure that, again, I do acupuncture, I get massages, I read, right? I'll read the Bible, I'll listen to certain sermons, I'll call my mother, right? And I don't even need to say anything. She's like, "What's wrong, boy? Tell me what's wrong." So, FaceTime with my mother is my meditation. So, those making sure I'm okay up here because physically I take that for granted. It's just making sure I'm good upstairs. And because of that, I think that exudes to my team because they're always really fired up. But then I also want them to understand that whatever they need to do to take care of themselves, because again, I'm a CEO. We'll build an awesome product. I want to build awesome people, right? I want to build up a team of people who are enriched, spirit-filled, appreciative, grateful, and then everything we build, we know that goes back into the world. So that's the most important thing for me, but it's going to start with me. I need to be a reflection of that. So I'm mindful of that now more than I was before.
So OnRamp, we know it's the plaid for crypto. There's certain things you can't tell us, but kind of what can you tell us is on the horizon? What can listeners expect from OnRamp? We know it's going to allow advisors to handle crypto, give access to crypto, Bitcoin to their clients. But what can they expect? What should they be looking for, excited about?
Yeah, so right now, right, the ability to model, to plan, to build, can't do that right now. We're going to allow that. There's no really good compliant approved materials to give the clients and things like that. Some of the investors and folks that we've aligned with, like we have a really good piece on updating ADV, which you'll be getting classified confidential before we push that out to our wait list. Like I worked on that with Chris Stanley and I can't say who else because they're involved with OnRamp, and we're using that ADV when we push that out to announce that person is involved. So again, the best way to explain it to advisors is this: everything we are doing is with the financial advisor in mind. I've been in the crypto space. I've seen all the different companies. Nothing is built for advisors by advisors. This is for you, right? And again, can't get too much detail into it, but we have a kick-ass retail offering, right? That's all I can say. That's in the cut, on ice. When we're ready to pull that one out, it's go time. But the focus now is the big blue ocean, getting advisors access, because if we get advisors access, then retail comes along with that. But I want to make sure we arm financial advisors with every single thing they need so they are the hero to their clients. We want to make the advisor the hero. We don't care. We don't want the credit. We just want to be in the background with you, right? And make the advisor look smart, educated, compliant, secure advice that's integrated and holistic for clients. So if you're doing financial planning and you want to pull in 5% of Bitcoin, great. It shouldn't be this hard thing to talk about or do. So that's the main focus for right now.
Well, I'll have you back on when those other things are able to be announced or the platform's out.
Yeah.
Any tease of a timeline? I mean, I know it's startup time, but
Yeah, so we are looking to have, and this is right from my CTO's mouth, who I spoke to before we came on. So the end of Q1, we are going to allow those, not everyone, but a few on our wait list to get access to be able to use it. So we're excited about that. So March, we are building fast because every time I pick up my phone, check my email, or go on my DM, somebody else is asking, is it ready yet? Is it ready yet? And I didn't say this. Fees in the crypto space right now are like the 80s, right, in Wall Street. Like, it's just ridiculous. So we are going to we're going to force fee compression, 100%. And that's what we're excited about as well, because the costs need to come down for advisors and it also needs to come down for retail as well. So we are going to force fees to come down when we actually release this, because again, we'll have access to all of those products on our platform, but we're going to make sure that as far as it goes for an advisor getting access and for their clients, that the fees come down exponentially.
So platform comes on, the retail side's booming, everything's going well. Advisors are helping their clients with crypto and giving them access. When you look back at your time as CEO as OnRamp, and who knows how long it's going to be, I'm not saying it's a short time, but how will you know OnRamp was a success, or what do you want to look back on and see that OnRamp did and that you were able to help build with your team?
That we were able to have a meaningful impact in the platform that we're going to have as a result of this. Because if we finish it, we'll be first. But what we're going to be able to look back and say is every step along the way that we've built, we've not only provided access for the wealthy and the elite, we used that, literally used it, to give access to those at the bottom as well. And that's how I know it's a success, because anybody that has our pitch deck, if you follow our roadmap leads to that. Where, again, and if you have a shirt, right, an OnRamp shirt on the back, that tagline is for a reason. Investing for the rest of us. I grew up in the rest of us home, right? So don't ever get it twisted. When we look back and it's success, and I honestly don't think this is an idea that's going to last a couple of years. I think we've already had some large folks come in and say, we're going to have to buy you, right? If this works and you can show proof of concept and it's like, we're going to have to take you out. But I think we should be able to look back and say, we use them to provide access for them and make it free and give them everything that they needed. So that's when we look back and we say, oh, we're popping bottles and making sure that, we can take over a school and make sure we wipe out their student lunch debt and the students get free Wi-Fi and technology as we celebrate, that we could say, yeah, we did it. We let them in, but letting them in gave them free access, financial planning, everything else. So that's how I will measure success, if we were able to do that. And more importantly, that anyone that has worked with us, partnered with us, could then leave OnRamp and they're taking all this intellectual capacity that they built up, but the empathy to give back, that would be an awesome reflection if now that permeates into other companies and into society.
I have no doubt you're going to make a huge impact. So I know that's where you're going. That's where the destiny steps are taking you. All right. So my final question, and everybody gets the same final question. So this is not unique to the business or anything. What's your superpower? What's your characteristic about yourself that's allowed you to overcome, reach your goals, and separate you from other founders out there?
PhD, poor, hungry, and driven. Period. Like I come from under the bottom, right? Like it's funny. I haven't. I'm getting used to it now. But people are like, "Oh, well, where did you grow up?" I'm like, New Jersey. You know what I mean? Like, because I didn't grow up one place. Like we were all over the place. But I just think it's that, man. Poor, hungry, and driven. Every time I go sit with my parents and I see what they had to endure, and I get more of the stories. Like I just get a big battery in my back, man. And like I'm that. Will, that thing with Will Smith where he's like, oh, if I'm on a treadmill next to somebody or whatever, like Will Smith, you're going to lose this one, bro. Like you just not, you know what I mean? There's just certain people you don't want to meet up with in the alley in business or whatever. Somebody born with a PhD. Those are people you want to align with those folks. You don't want those folks as competition. So I think that poor, hungry, driven mindset is my superpower. That always leaning on that, right? My mentor said, be very clear. At some point, you got to stop being a victim and you need to use that as fuel to what it is that you want to do. So that turns, again, just the passion to I'm just not going to stop, period. I just not. So, and now I keep in mind, like I said, a child went to bed hungry last night. That pisses me off, man. So I just kind of get that. I'm just not going to stop. So the PhD, man, for sure.
I thought we were done, but we're not. I have a follow-up question off of what your mentor told you. At some point, you have to quit being a victim and turn and use it. What was the point and not to say you were a victim, but in his words, what point At what point did you turn PhD from something that was holding you down and allow it to catapult you?
Phenomenal question, man. I probably would have to say, and again, not to get too far down in this story, where there's a bunch of moments at Merrill Lynch, and there was the first time, right? Merrill Lynch was 100 years old, and they had a black financial advisor getaway, right? And the firm paid for it. They sent down Miami 4 seasons. Let's spend a little bit of money on these Negroes after 100 years. Fine, we get down there, we're having a good time, everything's good. I get back, and this middle-aged white man with no college degree, was the branch manager, making all this money, was pissed about it. And I'm like, now my mentor was at Merrill too, and we got into it. And it was at that moment that I realized that it doesn't matter what I do, I'm always going to be that to him, to people like him. If I also compound that by being a victim to myself and beating myself up, now I'm getting beat down twice. Mm-hmm. Nah, I think I'm going to embrace being a first generation high school graduate. I'm proud of that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start sticking my chest out, and I'm going to start saying that. So once I stopped letting myself get beat down, as well as other people making me feel bad about that, I was like, no, first generation. Yeah, that's right. Yep. My dad just learned to read and write. Yep. I'm proud of that. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Come get some of this. So that's really what it was, man. You just get, you know how it is. It's just, you get tired of getting beat on. So he's like, all right, now I'm going to put my hands up. So that's really what it was. And then I started to realize now I have an opportunity to change lives and change my family's, situation with the opportunities that I have. And here we are. So that was it.
I don't know why. And hopefully this doesn't diminish the story. But as you're telling that and towards the tail end of it, I automatically thought of Eminem in 8 Mile when he goes up against Papa Doc, I think is his, and he flips it and like makes fun of himself. He's like, that was the moment. Like, okay, I'm not gonna let them come at me anymore. I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna put it out there, and then what are they gonna say? And like that was it's not Eminem, but it's the turning point almost for him. Like, I don't know why it came up. I don't know why I shared that, but that was what I was thinking as you're telling that. So, as I ruin the end of the podcast, let's get to where everybody can find you. So drop your social media, website, and then also be sure to drop any of the organizations you want listeners to go out and support, because I know that that's a big part of who you are and what you're about, and your purpose is bringing light to organizations that can help people in need.
Yeah, I'm not going to give any of that stuff. All I would say is this: if you made it to this point, please feed a hungry child. No Kid Hungry, Feeding America. Turn this off immediately. Do what you can to go feed the needy, help the needy, but especially hungry children. And if you please can drop a note to Justin Castelli and thank him for being an investor in OnRamp. We are incredibly grateful that he is a part of the family. That would do me a world of good. I appreciate you for having me, sir.
Well, thank you for. I didn't know if we were going to get to put that out there. I was going to ask you afterwards and put that in my disclosure ahead of time. I've always admired Patrick O'Shaughnessy when he talks about like I'm an investor in this guest's company, and I've always wanted to be able to say that. So I'm excited I get to lead in with that. But I'm just excited that I have the opportunity to be a part of this. I'm going to be an advocate of it as an advisor, but then also to play a very, very small part alongside some major players of helping OnRamp make it. And also it's a investment in you as much as it is in the company. Probably more so. I don't think it would have mattered what you were doing. If I had the opportunity to put money into you, I would. So thank you for allowing me. And thank you, Eric Irvin, as well, for allowing me as well. So I think that's a good note to end on. So you guys know where to find him. Follow his advice as far as helping out those in need. And Tyrone, I want to thank you for joining me as the CEO of OnRamp today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, bro. Love you, man.
Love you too, man. See everybody in the next episode.